Yo, Eazy.
What's up, guys? My name is Evan Duvall. This is Eazy Does It. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys, welcome to Eazy Does It. My name is Evan Duvall. I'm here with Clay and Mateo, the founders of Mesmerize.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely,
Thanks
man. I'm excited. Yeah, we're back with episode 12. It's a big weekend for y'all. This entire weekend is a celebration of the space that y'all have formed here at Native Hostel, and I'm really excited to get into the story of how y'all came up with this project and how it's developed since. So let's go ahead and get into introductions. Whoever would like to go first, and tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how we got here.
My name is Mateo. I'm from San Antonio. Been in Austin for probably like 12 years now. Just kind of been in the production scene and the event scene. Do a lot of experiential design. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I'm Clay. Been in Austin about 13 years now. Also from San Antonio. Me and Mateo go way back. Friends from high school. Our parents were actually friends in high school as well. I went to music school in Boston and then ended up in Austin to play music, and through playing shows and trying to make those more exciting and playing with lighting and stage design, ended up working with Mateo on a few other production companies in my early 20s, and eventually we became kind of events guys and started throwing parties and hosting events and doing more creative design work for other parties and events, brand activations, things like that. And then we ended up here with Mesmerize over the past year.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's amazing that y'all have known each other for so long and then now work together and have become partners through a lot of different ventures, and it's an amazing story.
He's definitely seen all the good and bad.
Yeah, through puberty and everything, huh?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Let's get into so kind of what brought you to Austin, and how that's come together.
Well, no, for me, it was to play music. So I went to music school in Boston, and when I was done there, Austin's the live music capital of the world. I'm from San Antonio, so it's close to home,
right,
but not close enough to where I have to put up with all of that all the time. So
did you ever come over to Austin when you were a kid, or?
Only once, or I think I went to South by my senior year of high school. That was the first time. But
Okay.
other than that, I'd never really been to Austin.
So is that what kind of fueled your motivation to move here? Was South by, or?
Part of it, when I was in Boston, a lot of my friends from San Antonio had started making that trek up to Austin to go to shows and go to parties in South by, and they were the ones talking it up. Oh, Austin's great, stop spending all that money in Boston and move back and start playing music in Austin.
Yeah.
So they convinced me.
Man, I can't wait until South by is back in full swing and get that thing.
I mean,
back.
when South by canceled, that was the only thing that made me realize how serious of a thing the pandemic was actually
Right.
about to be.
Yeah, it had to be at that point. For so many people depend on South by for a lot of big breaks and stuff.
Yeah.
I was even in Japan when I heard that South by was canceled, and I saw a lot of artists that were putting everything on the line to hopefully make their big break there, whether they had quit their jobs or invested all the money they had, and a lot of them still wanted to play. So it was interesting to watch that unfold, knowing how many lives were going to be impacted just by that being canceled.
Yeah, I mean, South by had basically built our production company a few years before, because it's such an immersive, interactive style of a festival, because there's the interactive portion. So all the big brands come through and throw these huge events where they go crazy, where they're hiring all these designers and artists to make their events really cool. So we ended up getting some big gigs the first year we started our production company, and that's kind of what put us on the trajectory to be like, okay, now we know we can do a thing. Let's
Right.
keep this going. And after a few years of doing it pretty well, it felt like it was growing. And then we had a really big South by planned in 2020. And then every gig, one by one, just started getting canceled within like a 7-day period. And then we were just like, what do we do now? Like, the whole industry was annihilated. So
Right.
it was a weird, scary time for us at that point.
Yeah, for a lot of people. But obviously what came next was an interesting period for y'all and a lot of other people, where all of a sudden we had more space in our lives than we were used to, and it kind of gave us space to think about, okay, what's coming next? So, what was that process like for y'all? COVID hits. Was this idea of Mesmerize? I guess we should get into kind of what is Mesmerize. As not everybody in the room has seen it. I know a couple of people are planning to after. So let's get into how it. Yeah.
Mesmerize is an immersive art museum here at Native Hostel. There's an event space back here. It evolves around a character who got sucked through the multiverse. As they got sucked through the multiverse, they were able to grab their journal and have left journal entries in all the different worlds to help lead you along the way. And a past history of Mesmerize started as an event series here at Native. We grassroots here. And just over time, they kept getting bigger and bigger. And then the pandemic happened, and Antonio was just like, hey, we got this empty event space. You guys want to do something? And at first, we were just like, I mean, who's going to come? It's a pandemic happening.
Right.
So it just took a little nudging on him, and I think kind of talked us into it. And we're like, all right, what else are we doing? We're not doing anything else. I was literally in my apartment for 3 weeks straight, didn't leave. I was a person who would get my groceries and disinfect all my groceries at one point, and then I remember when I would see someone with a mask, I was like, oh my God, they got a mask? And then I'm over here with like gloves on. Yeah. So it was just like, we're not doing anything else.
Right.
Yeah. So like you said, we started Mesmerize as an event series at the end of 2018.
Okay.
And after we did the first couple of events, sort of made a name for what those events looked and felt like. And so we kept those going throughout 2019, started building the brand, building the buzz around what we were trying to do. And we had an idea for a long-term immersive exhibit, right around the time we launched the first event. We had already, put together a proposal, and we're looking at buildings to try to work with, but we were also working pretty often with our production company. So there's just two of us in the production company, and, we're just getting started. So there's not a lot of expendable income or even a lot of time, because you spend all your days trying to find the next job, because in the event world, once the event is over, that's it. So then it's on to find the next one. Right. So we had the idea of wanting to do something more long-term for a while, but didn't quite have the right timing or the extra money or, a building to utilize. And then the events all felt like they were growing very well. So we were just kind of sidelining that idea until it made more sense. And then once the pandemic hit, like you said, we're just sitting around doing nothing. And we'd been building something for like almost 10 years, working on these different production companies, figuring out what worked for us. And then it felt like we'd really gotten to the place where we were building and growing something. And then, boom, just everything was pulled out from underneath us.
Right.
We're on unemployment for the first time in our lives, don't know what to do. It's like I'd been an entrepreneur since I was 18, and now I'm on unemployment. It's like, it didn't make sense to me in my lifestyle. But at the same time, like Antonio, who owns Native and is also our partner in Mesmerize now, he was like, we're not doing anything. Put my space to use. It's just sitting there empty. Right. You already have the idea. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. So we spent 3 months last summer concepting and building it out. And same way, there's not a lot of money to spend on it. So it's just me and Mateo spending like 14-hour days building and designing everything
2 months straight,
in there.
15 hours a day.
Yeah, so it was a lot of work.
What was the opportunity that y'all saw really, I guess, before the pandemic? You're saying that you kind of had a plan for an immersive experience. I guess what kind of potential did you see for acquiring this space? Was it just the ability to work to scale and build something? Was it more bringing people in and letting them enjoy that process? And what was it originally, and then how has that developed since?
I think for a big part for us was a part of it was scale, but mostly I think it was how do we not burn ourselves out, because we had ended up being in the live event world. So like I said, once the event is over, it's over, and then you're on to the next one. So there's a lot of work that goes in on the front end of designing, building, contracting, doing everything that you need to do for an event, and then you run
Build
the
it
event.
yourself.
And then once it's over, you got to tear it all down. And most of the time, these big, like during South by, all those parties just throw everything away. If it's
Right.
not owned by a company somewhere, most of the time, they're just throwing all that stuff away. So for us, it just seemed like a very wasteful industry. And also, it was costing us a lot of exertion and physical energy. And so
Right.
we were already getting to the point to where we were just like, we can only work in this capacity for very long, like for not too long. The amount of labor that's going into it for the two of us individually is not really scalable. So how can we figure out how to build something and show it off for a lot longer? We had gotten to where everything we made was only visible for 1 or 2 days,
Right.
and then that's it.
Yeah.
And it always had a great response, but we were always like, man, it would be great if this lived for a little longer so more people could come see it, and we don't have to tear it down and figure out what storage place to put it in or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And how big is that space in the back?
The one in here is 3,500 square feet.
Okay. And then before, from what I understand, is that y'all's installation started here at Native, just doing it out here in this open area before you had access to that
Correct.
space directly.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a dance party and art experience that we were trying to promote. So we would have a few DJs and
Yeah.
then set up a bunch of installations. Each event would have a different theme. So we would cater the theme with all the installations.
Yeah.
And also, I think another part of it for me and Clay is, I think we wanted to give people an atmosphere to disappear into a new world. Get out
Let
of
their
the
imagination
world.
explore.
Yeah, let them be a part of the art. Let them interact with the art. Let them disappear, kind of disappear from everything around us and come into a good space that,
I love that.
people can connect with.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then
is a
for you to be doing that already, and then COVID come along, and then I think the importance of people being able to show up that way, I think that's really exciting to have already, been in motion, and to be here on the back end and receive individuals. Obviously, there was a lot of changes that had to be made along the way, a lot of learning, but I think through COVID, people were isolated. In solitude, they were looking for things they could do, and for y'all to get access to the space and say, you know what, we're not going to give up on this. We're going to continue to push forward. And what was that process like for y'all?
Yeah, I think at first, we were just like, even if one person comes an hour, like, I think that's worth it. So we released tickets at 10 people an hour, face mask required. So it gave enough social distance between everyone to feel safe in the space.
Right. And originally it was tough. It was like what we're getting from the media and what we're getting from
It's hard to judge the climate.
CDC. Yeah, it was tough to judge because nobody really knew. And so people were just they're just throwing their hands up and going, okay, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to wait this out.
Right.
So obviously there's opportunity for people to lean in there and go, you know what, people still need something to do. Let's just come up with the answer of how to do that safely.
Right. And also for us, because we're events guys, and the Mesmerize parties pre-pandemic were free events. So the whole goal for everything we did really before was get as many people in here as possible. And we would always push capacity limits if we could get away with it.
Right.
And then when we started designing the Mesmerize to launch in the middle of pandemic, during an economic shutdown, it was like a whole new challenge because we had to figure out how to design it in a way for it to be safe. So that way, even if the city said it was okay for us to open in a small limited capacity, we still needed it to have it look like it was going to be safe for the potential guests, so that way they felt comfortable coming at all.
Right.
So we did as much as we could to, the capacity in that room is probably about 200 people, and like you said, we limited it to 10 every hour. And one of the surprising things that we didn't anticipate, because all we were doing was making it as safe as possible so that way anybody would actually show up. But once they did start showing up, the feedback and the response that we got from the people was they were truly immersed. Their immersion and what they got from their experience was so much more of an elevated experience than we had anticipated because
of the timing.
Because of the timing and because they were in there by themselves. So a lot of the other experiences that exist in the nation that are similar, didn't they weren't operating in the same capacity during the pandemic because there were such large establishments.
Right.
So your experience there a lot of the time is waiting in line for an installation or bumping into somebody because there's so many people there. And we would have people come, and if they came to the first hour, like on a Wednesday, they might have the whole room to themselves, just a couple. So now you have this whole immersive art experience, which is you and your significant other.
Yeah.
So you really get to have a magical moment in there. So that's one of the things we're really trying to hold on to as we expand and grow, is how do we not lose sight of that special part of the intimacy with the experience.
Right.
Because obviously it is a business, so we do want to sell as many tickets as possible, but not at the expense of the actual experience. So that's one of the learning lessons that we've gotten from having it open in the middle of a pandemic with all these limitations, which ended up being sort of perks and bonuses for us instead of limitations.
Just because you leaned in and you said, okay, we're not going to give up, we're just going to adapt here. People still need somewhere to go.
Yeah, I think there's been some pretty beautiful moments in there. There's been a proposal, a marriage that's happened inside. There's been several music videos that have happened inside, so it's really amazing to see how people connect with it.
Sure.
The proposal was really fun because the groom, the future groom, the husband, he coordinated with us and our staff to be a part of the surprise. So we all had these little roles and responsibilities because he was coming in with his soon-to-be fiancée and a friend, and we had blocked off the entire hour for them, and he gave Mateo a role where he showed up in the middle of them walking through the exhibit to serve her papers.
Yeah, I got to serve someone. It was kind of cool.
And totally caught her off guard because she's actually going to be one of our vendors today. She's a tarot reader. But so as soon as she walked in, she was really excited to be on the journey that they were about to embark on.
Yeah.
But then Mateo comes out of nowhere and serves her papers. And
I would have gone way off script.
What is
I would have
happening?
taken that far and right.
I was so nervous. I was like, I hope I don't mess this up. This is like a big deal. But then our whole family was like in the back, and they all came out, and it was super beautiful. And my dad was there as well, and we were like in the back, and me and him just look at each other, and I was like, dang, are we about to cry right now? Like, this is pretty beautiful.
It's intense. The music in there amplifies everything as well. Yeah, I think that's interesting to talk about. So you started building the installations. You started really having a 1 month timeline to get everything done, right?
It was 2 months.
Okay, 2
but
months.
we concepted a month before that, and then
started
build out July 1st, and then we opened September 3rd.
Yeah,
so it was full on build out. Like I said, it was 15 hours a day for 2 months straight, not one day off. There was a few times me and him were trying to figure out new ideas, and then we were just like, well, what paint is going to be on this wall? And I was like, pink? We have a lot of pink. And then he's like, no, not just because we, and then we're like
just back
starting
and
to
forth.
like, we're just like, just like pulling out our hair.
Childhood friends turned into
intense.
business partners and then creators.
But it was
And
also,
now you have a deadline.
Yeah.
So deadline really brings on some pressure.
but it was really beautiful because new installations, new passageways kind of opened up as we were building. So it was like, man, what if we put a tree here, and what if we put an armoire on the other side, and kind of like a Narnia-style door, walk through, and now you're in a new world. And
Right.
Yeah, it definitely was a very organic process because we went in there with one idea, and then you start sort of putting the idea together in a sketch form so you can consider it. You saw some of our sketches.
Yeah.
And then
Very
once
professional.
you start putting stuff on the walls and start seeing things physically, the ideas start to morph and transform.
Sure.
So you start to get new considerations to think about. And so that's where some of the, probably more of the fan favorite pieces in there probably came out of, because it didn't come as an idea until we
You saw the
we
opportunity.
saw it
yeah.
in there, and we could feel, something's missing here. What does it need? So
Yeah, I think that can translate into a lot of things, is that once you have access to space and once you make that space in your life, then you really see, how opportunities start to unfold. You see the potential of how things can come together. You obviously start to involve other people who have something to bring to the table. But if we can get access to those spaces, then then people can truly start to express themselves, and the final product is truly enjoyable because you can see the time and effort and collaborations that went into it. There's so many ways to do that in this world, and I encourage anyone that has an idea to lean in and make that step. And action inspires action, and a lot will be learned on the way. Usually when you start something, you have an idea of what your end product is going to be, and I'm sure that it's just been completely different.
It started as a Google Doc of just installation ideas, and then there was another Google Doc of the narrative that we were trying to put across, and we were just kind of building the story at the same time. We're just like, okay, well, what will fit into the story, and what installations will be fun, what can we afford, so it's kind of.
Did y'all have like artists approaching you, like saying, okay, we
didn't really do like an open call or anything like that, but since we've been in the art scene and the music scene for so long, we do have a lot of resources, whether it's production companies or actual artists who do all sorts of different things. So as we're building, we definitely, and this is the way that we kind of work too, is we have an idea, and then it's like, all right, based on our skill set, are we the best person to make this happen, or do we know somebody that we can bring on? So some of the pieces in there were outsourced to other people that we know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we were asking them to do a certain thing to make our vision come to life.
Right.
There was really only one piece in there that was previously built that we worked out a deal with the artist to put it in there. And it just happened to be a coincidence because the title of her piece was called The Mesmer. So when we met her at an event a year before, she was like, you guys are called Mesmerize.
Yeah.
I have this
and our
piece
character's name
called
is
The Mesmer.
Mhm.
So we should work together sometime. And so when we were building the garden, I was like, we got to get that piece because it's the synchronicity and like the whole theme of everything. It's worked too well together for it not to be in there. So.
Sure.
And it's worked out great.
And I think we wanted to work with more artists. I just don't think we had the means and the budget to bring on more artists. So we did what we could and brought as many artists as we could, but it was mostly Clay and I just coming up with these concepts and building as much as we could.
Yeah, we've done a lot in the past where in our early 20s with the other, production companies that we'd worked with where you're asking for favors for promotion from artists. And as somebody who doesn't want to receive that request, we tend to not like to ask people to do stuff unless we can offer them fair compensation in some way. So for this, it was just like, it meant so much to us and it was going to be so much work for us. We didn't want to ask anybody to do anything for us unless we could compensate them in some way. So we definitely tried to keep things, slim just because of that. Because it just, everyone, especially in the pandemic, it's like, I don't want to ask you to, bust ass for us if I can't give you anything.
Right.
So we really tried to be mindful of all that.
And we like to do a lot of things ourselves. We talked about that earlier.
We definitely do.
Very DIY.
Yeah, as you scale a business and you learn more about how to be a leader in certain roles and how to approach people differently. But originally, being a creative and having that entrepreneurial spirit of just like, what, I need something done, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
And there is a learning process to that and the ability to scale and bring people on so you can conserve a little bit of your energy instead of just always being on high output and expending everything you have to make a dream happen.
Yeah.
So
it was really funny because we went straight from build to opening, and then we were the employees.
Yeah.
I was inside and Clay was running the desk, and about 3 weeks into it, we were like, man, we should probably get employees because we're here Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah.
Checking every ticket, going through the spiel.
And then I had to hear the music inside for like 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
I had to come out and get some fresh air because...
Well, I thought that was hilarious that, people would come out of the experience and be like, that was amazing. Who built this? And you're like, we did. They're like, why are you checking tickets?
Yeah, there was definitely more than a few people would be sort of like dumbfounded when they would ask me who built it, and I'd say me and the guy inside, and they're like, they couldn't quite comprehend because they're like, oh, I just thought you were a door guy.
Yeah.
No, I built and designed everything in there. It's the middle of a pandemic, so we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
So finally we got employees.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing experience, man. I'm really proud of what y'all have done.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And for y'all to, like I said, step up in that way and not shy away is inspirational, and the effort that y'all have put in, it shows. And a lot of people have been able to escape just the raw reality, an intense world we've been living in over
and
the
that's
last year.
like with that escape thing, when we knew we had the opportunity and we're like, okay, what is it going to be? Mesmerize in the event series was always a traveling dance party and art experience. So every event got to have its own little theme.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we knew this was going to be a more ongoing thing, we were like, what is this going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So it was, well, what are we going through right now? Oh, we're in the middle. None of us can do any of the things that we thought that we would be doing right now. Nobody wants to be in this situation. We're all looking for an escape. We're all having to readjust to this new normal. We all want to get out of this world a little bit. So that was the goal. We're like, how can we build something to where people know they're about to go on a little journey out of this world for a little while and get some relief? Yeah, ideally.
And as we move on to the future, there's like so many different ways to do that as technology gets better and better. It's beautiful to see people to escape in such an interactive experience, and I think that we're going to see a really amazing progression of that in our lifetime. What was fictional reading or movies for a lot of people, now they can go somewhere and they can see something and walk through it and follow along, and it's just such a beautiful concept, and I'm excited to see how it progresses. And with that, I know that y'all are working on bigger projects now, and this space is actually coming to an end. So what's on y'all's horizon?
Well, we are in the middle of trying to find a permanent new location. So the goal is to expand, make the exhibit bigger, and to also have a larger footprint in our facility, so that way we can have our own private event space and music venue. Native has been wonderful to us. We go way back since they opened their doors. They've been bringing us on to help with their productions, and Antonio, who's our partner now, has been amazing to bring us on and let us do what we have here. And it's been a learning experience for all of us, and it's been successful for all of us as well. So we're excited to grow. We're still figuring out what all that looks like in these next steps, but hopefully within the next year we'll be able to reopen our new permanent location. And then I don't have any other things to share with it about that, but it's going to be very fun and very exciting. So I'm excited to share it with you.
The
once
place we are trying to get is amazing, and I hope we get it. It's like
me
this
too.
concrete jungle that's perfect for Mesmerize, and it's a bigger footprint for sure.
It's really exciting, man. I think it's beautiful to be here in Native and see how welcoming they are to different individuals and creatives that are trying to step up and serve the community in some sense, and perfect their crafts, and they're very supportive of that. And you look at that schedule, and it's just amazing how many different types of DJs and individuals that are stepping up.
They're all over the place. Ever since we've been here, it's like you walk in, you're like, what are they doing today?
Yeah,
what?
I love that.
And that's what we love about it too. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to hold on to as we grow and get our own facility, because Native's done such a great job of being a versatile facility for doing whatever they think is fun and cool, which is what we want to be able to do. So one of the limitations being here at Native is that there's so many things happening at Native, and not that what they're doing isn't great, but it's just hard to control the experience from start to finish for us. So in the new space, that's what we'll be able to do.
Right.
So whether you're at the bar cafe at our space or you're in the venue at our space, it'll all look and feel like Mesmerize.
Sure.
So it'll be just a little more cohesive overall.
Yeah, and what a great launch pad to go from is what you originally saw and what you got access to here was space, and through that process you learned what was possible, and then you could kind of let your imagination run with what is what the potential is.
Yeah, and our event series are coming back.
We're doing one today.
Yeah,
Stick
we're doing
around.
one today.
Yeah.
Today and tomorrow. It's going to be 4 to 2 a.m. today, and tomorrow it's going to be 11 a.m. to 8 p.m.
We have 4 DJs today. We have 3 DJs tomorrow. a huge vendor market that's taking over the space. You know, unfortunately, it did rain, so all of our outdoor activities are being pushed inside, but we're going to make it work. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm just excited that the events are back and
Yeah,
doing the event
you're not
series
the
and
only
then-
ones. I think everybody's just incredibly happy to be back out
Yeah.
and for live music to be a part of our lives again, and you know, to get out and see people, because you know, as we've touched on before, is that you know, a lot of people in that solitude, in their quarantines, they had time to go inward and think about how they were going to express themselves and write new music and develop different ways of doing art. And, you know, now we're seeing the products of that. So if you see that out in public and people stepping up and trying to serve in that way, just know that that came from a very real place. And a lot of inspiration came out of this last year. And I think we have the opportunity to flip that narrative on its head that, you know, 2020 sucked or whatever, that it was all bad. Is like that, it drives me crazy because of the amount of growth that I went through personally in that year. Whether, you know, I like what's going on or not, like time is going to pass. And so we have the ability to take a step back and just say, okay, why am I telling myself this story? Is it influenced by something outward? Is it the media? Is it our loved ones that have, you know, a negative idea of what's going on in the world just because they're isolated and they're feeding into that? Or can we take a step back and start to, you know, ask ourselves, where is our perspective coming from? And how do we want to show up in the world, even if that is just like our immediate surrounding? So y'all are an example of that.
Yeah, I think I was kind of at a low whenever we started building Mesmerize, just like everyone else, and it forced me to be creative when I wasn't creative.
Yeah, you had energy to put into something that a lot of people just were just kind of stuck. Like, okay, we're just gonna wait this out. But like, life is short, and obviously, like, I mean, there's still people that are just like just waiting. You know, like in Austin, it's very alive. Things are open. But I know that's not the case, you know, and then a lot of places around the country, people are still, you know, wondering if it's safe to come back out. And
yeah, we were definitely fortunate to be stuck here.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I know that's the case. You know, I was overseas when all of this happened and made my way back to Austin about after, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 months of quarantines and regulated by the military, and that was not fun. And so when I got back stateside, I was up in Seattle actually first, and you know, before, when I was in Japan, we couldn't leave base and we weren't supposed to leave our rooms. We couldn't even go to the gym, but I was like, I'm going to the gym, because if anybody's at the gym that wants to get me in trouble, they're not supposed to be at the gym either. So loopholes. But I made my way back to the States, and I was like, my feet hit the ground. I was like, yes, I'm free. I'm about to get out of the military. Let's go get a beer. And I remember sitting downtown Seattle, and there is nobody on the streets. And places were open, like they needed business, you know, come in with your mask, grab a beer, and go sit outside. And I remember just thinking, like, I could hear a pin drop in the streets of Seattle, and you'd see
Drinking
a car.
a beer by yourself outside.
Yeah, and you'd see a car every 15 to 20 minutes. All the windows were boarded up. I was like, what is this? And then I was up there for about a month, got back to Austin, and people were still talking about quarantine. And in my mind, I was like, everything is wide open. Like, I can go out to eat. I can go to the park. I can go run. You know, I couldn't do any of that stuff overseas. So, and obviously now, like, that's just getting, everything's more and more open. People are finally feeling safe, and I think now is the time, you know, just as it was last year, to lean in and ask ourselves, how can we do this safely? How can we make people, you know, feel secure and like we have their best interests in mind, and obviously access to some things that are very important, which is social interaction, it's creativity, it's the use of the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, we're party guys, so
Yeah.
all we're trying to do all the time is hang out with our friends and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when we couldn't do it anymore, it was just like, I mean, what do we even do now?
Right.
So, I mean, we definitely, you know, went through that COVID depression for a while. For me, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't do anything else, so I guess I'm going to spend my time doing all the creative and like personal productive things that I've been telling myself I didn't have time for anymore.
Which is amazing.
You know, so I started practicing music and trying to get a good gym routine in because I was so busy working all the time that I was like, oh, I don't have time for this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have an excuse, so I'm going to do that. But that only lasted like 1 or 2 months before Antonio started, you know, kicking us, saying, hey, let's do something.
Yeah.
So then we're very project oriented. So once we had a project to work on, it's all in. So.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it was like a personal growth moment, learn more about myself. And then I also picked up a little DJing. I was like, hey, I've always wanted to learn how to DJ. I might as well. Picked up a little rig, and I was just like dancing by myself in my little apartment. It was a lot of fun.
It's a pretty healthy way to cope with isolation. Yeah, I do the same thing.
My neighbor would be texting me like, yo, are you like partying next time? Yeah, by myself.
I'm practicing.
Don't come over.
That's amazing. Hilarious. Yeah, I don't think you're the only one in this room that dances alone, you know.
Or that picked up DJing in the last year.
Yeah, for sure. There's plenty of those out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool, guys. Yeah, so, you know, what's next?
Yeah, right now we're just trying to get that next building. I think, you know, we're just concepting a bunch of installations, seeing like what the next one looks like. Is same way the first one did. It's just like a Google Doc of ideas, names, themes.
Trying to figure out if we're gonna take the narrative element that we started here and expand on it, or if, you know, we'll just capture this and sort of put it to an end and do something entirely new.
Sure.
Still figuring out what it's all gonna look.
I'd like to start
like.
a new theme. I kind of want to steer away from the space element. I think everyone does the space theme. I think I'd like to figure out how we can do something
a little more fresh.
Something new.
Yeah. And with this new venue, you think you're saying you think you'll get like live music involved? You think you'll have?
Yeah, well, live music for sure. And one of the things that we ran into here is because we took over Native's event space. Now there's not one for us or them to use. So when we got hit up for people who wanted to book it out for a private session, or, you know, whether it's a birthday party or like a bachelor party or bachelorette party or something like that, we couldn't really accommodate that. So that is the goal, is to have a separate but connected space that we can do our own special programming, whether it's shows on the weekends or we have somebody who wants to do a sort of private rental. Then we can accommodate that without interfering with the general public and their ability to just walk through the space on their own.
Right.
So it will definitely be, and as a music guy too, I mean, I'm always looking for a way to have a fun place to bring the artists that I want to see live.
Yeah.
So that would be, you know, great for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going down this weekend? The big banger, huh?
The big banger. We're here. You're all here. It's about to start. So like you said, today we're going 4 to 2. We have a vendor market outside, well, outside of this room, and DJs will be here and in the South Wing, just here shortly.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
As I was sitting here, I was like, "Is that sun? Are we about to
we
about to get done with this and move everything back outside?" But I don't think we're gonna do that.
I think the backyard's muddy enough to keep us inside today. But
yeah,
awesome. It's a free party, so anyone who's here, you know, stick around. We're going to be going all night tonight, and tomorrow's more day party vibe, so 11 to 8. And tomorrow afternoon upstairs we have some special programming. We're featuring the Mesmerizing Ladies of Austin, so we have some more health and wellness, like workshop-oriented activities that'll be going from 11 to 4 upstairs, and then through the rest of the day we'll have DJs and a vendor market, and we're showcasing some other art installations. And then Mesmerize is open. General admission tickets like usual.
There are some hidden general admission tickets, FYI. So.
We did hide 24 tickets around Native, so if you find them, they're good for 2 admissions if you find a single ticket.
Don't take them all.
Yeah, everybody just leaves. They're just like out. Like, see you guys later.
You'll see them.
You might find one. We're gonna leave it.
It
open.
says the big banger on it.
Someone found one.
But we haven't made a public announcement yet, so you guys are the first to hear it, so you have a head start.
Boom.
Oh, 2 found. Dang. All right. Okay.
Well, that's awesome, guys. I think we're all appreciative of what y'all have done here.
Thank you for having us.
You know, and I think that's why Eazy Does It, was formed. That's what my motivation was to, expand this platform and continue to show up is there are people out here coming up with answers of how to keep this city progressing and different avenues of expression and creativity. And I think that just public, general awareness of what's going down and when and how to get involved is super important. That's what's going to shape the culture of the city in the future. And just using our voices and attending these things and calling attention to them, or using your platform. Like maybe you can make it to something, but your friend sends you a flyer just to get the word out. We can all do that for each other. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to shape and steer the direction that we want to go, what's important to us, what's been around generationally, rather than just who's got the most money and who's going to buy out these buildings. Like we can really work together.
Community is everything. I mean, like I said, we're party guys, so all we're trying to do is have a great time with cool people. And we're always looking to make more friends and meet more interesting people and facilitate environments and experiences that allow people to come and have a good time. And so if you are looking to get involved or reach out to us in any way, you can find us on Instagram at This Is Mesmerize, or just on our website at thisismesmerize.com. You can always send us an email or a DM if you're looking to get involved in any kind of way. We're always looking to meet new people, so feel free to reach out.
I'm just super excited to continue the art scene here in Austin by local artists and bring an immersive experience to Austin and keep it going.
Yeah,
I think people need it.
That's super important to me too, and the narrative so far has been like support local. The restaurants that we attend, the coffee shops that we go, the artists that we see out. If it's an extra $1 or $2 to support them here and there, or just letting people know that they're appreciated, or that you see them and see what they're doing and get something out of that, because that fuels motivation and more creativity more than anything else. And we're going to start seeing that expressed in very colorful and very interactive and very beautiful ways, whether it's from jewelry or interactive art experiences or concerts or venue space or podcasts or whatever it is. Just everybody just step up and do something to help each other out. Distract each other. I don't want to say distract. I don't like that word. But, just get out and live our lives. But cool. Let's go ahead and open it up. I want to do a Q&A real quick. Let's bust this mic off real quick. We're going to take this one off. Yep. Cool. If anybody has any questions, let's go ahead and step up. We don't have as much core, but you're good there. Yeah. Cool.
Hey, y'all.
What's up,
So how much did your vision for Mesmerize actualize? So you said you had the Google Docs. You said you had some plans going into it. How much did that vision for what y'all saw really come into physical here? And also, another side question, how did you overcome that hardship that everybody had to experience, which was, for y'all, you said the unemployment, which was something that, nobody expected. What kept you grounded during that time? Like any hardship, what kept y'all grounded during that? And then also the vision, how much did that play in the end role or the end product here?
So for the vision part, I think I would say probably 50-50. We went in there with one idea and sketched it out. And then like we were saying earlier, as you start building it, it sort of changes and morphs, and you start to realize what's physically possible and feasible based on the physical space and like the boundaries and confines that you're working within. And then you start getting new ideas. So when those new ideas start popping up, you start asking yourself, is this better than what I've thought before?
Yeah.
So, and then you talk about it, and thankfully there's two of us, so we can bounce those ideas off of each other and come to some sort of common ground a lot of the times. And then, usually, we have our moments, but we do pretty good. And then for the other part, you go for it.
Yeah, there was one time where I measured a wall 3 inches taller, we were framing a wall, and instead we were putting it up, and
That's what I'm saying.
Instead of bringing it back down to take off those 3 inches, everybody was like, well, let's just sledgehammer it into place. So I think we took 3 hours probably to sledgehammer it into place, and took way more energy than to just bring it down. So there was definitely lots of obstacles.
And then the wall goes from this to this because you cinched it in there so much.
I think as far as the next question, I think, like I said, it kind of forced me to be creative when I wasn't creative. So sometimes the ideas that we had, I was like, I don't know if that's going to look good, or I don't know if people are going to want to be in that room. And I just wonder how people are going to take it. Definitely, whenever we opened the doors, I was very just like, man, I wonder what people are going to think of this. Are they going to think it sucks? And then, like, after 3 months of being in there working, I was just like, man,
It's okay.
yeah, I think it's all right. It's not bad. So it's definitely lots of obstacles, especially mentally, that we had to overcome. And I think just being there and building it kind of helped me just be creative, just got it out of me.
Yeah, it's stepping up and being creative when you necessarily weren't in a creative space, but you are creative, right? That's the resistance.
Right.
That's
the
That is the
resistance.
war of art, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us feel that in a lot of different ways. But what you lean in and you push back into that. And you're not hard on yourselves about it. At times we are.
Yeah, sometimes.
But it's just a part of the process. And obviously, like when you get on the back end of that, when you feel the most resistance, there's something more important. You're getting closer. But the end product of whatever you're creating will be special, and you will get a bigger and larger sense of fulfillment out of that because of the hustle.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think, to follow up with what Mateo was saying, because we're so project-oriented, once we had something that we felt was worth working on, then you just sort of focus on that, and you're not really considering anything else that's happening as much as you were when you're just sitting at home in your apartment watching the news, trying to make sense of what's happening. Now we just sort of aren't even thinking about that, and we're just,
it's
all right.
immediate.
Yeah, we just have to build this. All right, the walls need to be painted, so time to paint the walls. They need to be built, so you get into this flow to where that's what you're consumed with, and that allows you to sort of, work through the unsettling emotions that were just here because of this weird reason. And for me, I'm like always trying to be better about practicing gratitude, because I've been able to do lots of things in my life, all sorts of weird jobs, whether it's creative or business, and I feel very fortunate to have the opportunities that I've had. So when Antonio was presenting us with his opportunity, it did, because of the pandemic, took me a second to view it as an opportunity, but once it felt like an opportunity, then it's real easy for me personally to be like, I'm doing something worthwhile. So I feel good about that, because that's what I want to be. I just want to be spending my time doing something interesting, something fun, something creative. I like to make things, and I like to host. I'm a big host, whether, as you can tell, we're about to have, probably over 500 people show up here today. So I love to host, and, I was thankful that we had an opportunity, because it all felt like we were being forced into this obligation of dealing with, the pandemic and an economic shutdown, and it just felt like it was coming from the ether, and you're just like, I don't know.
So much bigger than you.
So much bigger. I can't do anything about this, so what can I do? I can make this thing, and maybe somebody can look at it.
I love that.
And
it's such a great response. Yeah, we need more of that in this world, and that ability to, for what was Antonio for y'all, and I have a feeling that y'all will take in people in the future. The position that you're putting yourself in is promoting, expression and creativity, And that's just going to be a chain reaction. That's what's going to make this city special. That's what's going to, inspire artists to step up and express themselves. It's just happens generationally. And, once you put yourself in that position, then you can recognize that guy that's in the grind and trying to make it happen and maybe getting no response at all.
Yeah, it was a very surreal experience, and I love just walking through there all the time and taking videos on my phone, putting music to it, and just, to me, I'm very thankful for the opportunity. I think it's a very beautiful experience, and like I said, I love just walking through there, cruising through. Sometimes I have to leave because I'm just like, I'll find things that I want to fix or do, and I'm just like, I need to go, because it's just like, time to leave.
For sure. Let's get another question. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's up, y'all? So, I'm curious. I've got 2 questions. The first one I'll ask is, what was your inspiration while doing this? And do you have any other artists that you study and you get inspiration from?
The direct inspiration was the pandemic, was how can we create something to offer an escape? We want to escape this world right now. What can we do to make that sort of come to life in a physical way? And then as far as artists, he comes from a photography and video background, and I'm a musician. I went to music school and was here in Austin playing in bands and doing touring for like 8 years before I felt like I was more of an events guy than I was a performer, more of an event producer. So I think we have a wide range of people that we sort of follow and are inspired by. And we're always exploring new experiences like this and seeing other artists who are creating large-scale installation pieces, whether it's like a James Turrell or a Kusama kind of thing. Those people have really interesting ways to take like something that seems simple and basic, and they turn it into this big, immersive experience in some way. Like Kusama does the infinity rooms, and James Turrell will take like 7 lights and put them in a massive room and turn it into this beautiful lightscape that you're like, how did you like do that with so little? So I'm always very interested in the process of things to see how stuff is done. Sometimes it gets a little like burdensome because you're like, oh, do I even enjoy anything anymore? I'm constantly analyzing, constantly trying to pick up tricks and tools and tips from things. But I think at our core, we're both just huge art fans, whether it's music or visual art. And we're always taking in everything that's around us to try to get new ideas and continue like to be inspired.
For sure. What about you, Mateo?
Definitely Kusama is a huge inspiration. No Tech, they're pretty amazing artists. They do a lot of light installations. And also just seeing...
kept us as a duo.
Someone you could collaborate with or something?
Possibly, I would...
They operate as a duo, and we have always operated as a duo.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, I think for me, I always liked that because I was like, oh, they figured out how to do this duo art thing instead of one. Like, instead of the artist, they're a duo. And I was like, we've always just worked together. And so we don't have as strong, like, individual personas as the thing that we've always made together. So that Nonotech was always a big inspiration for me in that kind of way. And I think he's probably more because of the actual art they're making.
And I also think just everything around me, seeing what engages people, what do people want to play with, what do people want to take photos with, how can we engage more people? Just like what is fun for them is more of like what's around me, what I notice in my everyday life, what do people like to do. I think that's a huge inspiration to help me with my art, that I think I can express it and engage. Make people disappear, interact with the art, take photos with the art, I think is a huge inspiration for me. It's just noticing that.
Yeah, I really like the how you mix the graphics and video. I've been inside of Mesmerize.
This is
I was there like a couple months ago. I think y'all have changed it since then.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely like
the projections back here is the guy sitting right behind you, Andrew. He did do one of the pieces inside for us.
Right. He's working on a nice, hopefully getting this licensed.
Hopefully.
Okay, so my second question. Sorry. I like production work and live events. Who doesn't? EDC has always been a big one for me. Like, Electric Daisy Carnival out in Vegas. What's your favorite production you've worked for and why?
Oh, that we've worked for.
So mine,
I'll take
I
this
did
one.
I worked for, I was a projectionist for a Sony show for South by probably like 3 years ago. And it was the Sony Wow House, I believe. And to me, everything that they did in that, they just totally transformed this warehouse. And I was the projectionist on this job that they were projecting dancers and a performer in Tokyo, and they were live streaming them in Austin, projected onto these acrylic panels that they were hologram panels. So no latency at all, coming from all the way from Tokyo. And
Wow.
there was 9 panels, and there was a singer in the middle that was also in Tokyo, and you would walk around and see the front of him, and then you would walk to the back of the acrylic panel, and you would see the back of him. And so that was 2 projections hitting 1 acrylic panel. So that was just an amazing opportunity, and I got to experience it and saw what they did and the amount of tech that they brought in. It was just amazing. Another one for me, I was on this show called Marvel Universe Live. I was a projectionist. It was a superhero stunt show inside arenas. It was a crazy show. There was like 29 semi-trucks that we would have to go in each city, set up. It would take 3 days to set up. There was like 26 projectors, all projection mapped and blended into one big image. It was really cool. There was a lot of superheroes, Captain America fighting Loki, pyrotechnics like motorcycle jumping. That was a lot of fun for me. That was whenever I experienced just like projection mapping on a huge level. That really taught me a lot. And then another one, I worked for a circus doing video and audio. That was crazy. Lions and tigers, no bears. I saw an elephant go through an LED wall because the performers would actually have to open and close the LED wall, and they didn't open it fast enough, and elephant went through an LED wall, and they kind of blew up everywhere, and it was quite an insane
Pyro.
experience. Or I would come open up a drape and there'd be a tiger right there, and I'm just like, all right, going the other way. No tigers for me today. But those were all different experiences that taught me a lot live production stuff and helped me benefit the stuff I do.
Yeah, he's definitely had more experience working for large-scale productions as a projectionist and a video guy than I have. But to touch on that Sony project he was talking about, that event really was, I didn't get to work at that, but I did get to go hang out and watch what he was doing. And it was so far out. They're doing, like he said, they're doing 4K video and audio simultaneously streaming back and forth from Austin and Tokyo, so that because the DJ playing the music is here in Austin and the singer and dancer are in Tokyo, and they're all being simulcasted like audio and video back and forth to each other so they can perform live here in Austin while the performance is happening in Tokyo also. And it was just this plus hologram stuff. So now the dancers are like hologram images in front of you here in Austin. And it was just like, it took you a second to even comprehend the entertainment aspect of it because you're just so consumed by what is actually happening. And then you're just like, this is on another level of tech and art and performance and production. And they were just like trying something out, you know.
Man.
That Sony factory that year was just one of those things where they're like, we're gonna bring all of our designers from Japan and show you all the cool stuff that nobody else has seen yet.
Super advanced.
It seemed like a lot for me to like call my family when I lived in Japan.
Yeah.
Turns out I'm full of shit.
But for me, one of the probably more fun productions that really sticks out to me was the first big gig we got as our production company is called Independent Event Creatives. So we got a gig, and we had just started this company. We had started a photo booth company on the side when after he was done touring with Marvel and I was done touring with bands. We were both back in Austin, and we're like, all right, what do? We started a photo booth company for a little while. That wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So we're like, we need to get back into events. So we had just started this production company. Like, we didn't even really have like a legal name yet. I'm in the middle of putting a website together, and we got a potential bid that we could get this gig with Twix, the candy bar. They were doing a big brand activation at Luster Pearl on Rainy, and they needed some art installations built out, and they had 3 weeks to do it. So we get the call like 30 days, and I'm like selling myself as if we have a production company and as if we have we had the experience to do the project, but we didn't have a business entity to like prove, to just send somebody a link and be like, here's what we do. Yeah. So that was really
Get an LLC.
yeah, so I'm like getting the business name and getting a bank account like all at the same time that I'm like negotiating what's going to happen for this project. So this was like, it was one of my favorites because I just learned so much through this short amount of time.
You got it done.
And we're also at that time working out of our 2-car garage in a condo. So Twix was like, we need 10 modular art installation like booths themed around different musician groups, and you need to fabricate them off site and just install them. And we're like, cool, got it. Now we're like looking at our 2-car garage like, how are we gonna do all this? And luckily we got negotiated down to where it was only like 5 pieces, but still we ended up having to purchase like 300 milk crates because they wanted the backdrops to be fabricated out of milk crates. Mm-hmm. And then it was just a very weird but fun, creative project because it was all over the place. There was music, there was photography stuff, there was, all these milk crates to play with. And then it was, like 2 weeks straight again of like creating everything in our 2-car garage, which doesn't have enough space to do anything but one thing at a time. So you got to do that one thing and then push it to the side and then clear it out and make more room to do the other thing and then push that away. And it was just a lot. And, then the client is like, oh, send us some photos of some updates. And we're like, I can't send you a photo of my garage. It's not going to sell it well.
Yeah.
But we got through and like we knocked it out of the park. They were super happy with us, and we ended up working with them again the following year. So that was probably one of my favorite ones.
That's awesome. All right.
We still have like 250 milk crates if you need some milk crates.
Anybody else? You got any questions? Raise your hands high. Not all at once. Good? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much,
Thanks
Clay and Mateo,
us.
for coming out. Guys, let's give them a round of applause. Well, I think there's a few tickets still hanging out around the place, so not everybody run out at once, but to the death. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much to Native Hostel.
Thanks, everyone.
Out. And I would like to thank my friends from Metahertz Lab, Andrew, for coming out and doing the graphics today. You can find him, Metahertz Lab, on Instagram. He's doing some really cool stuff. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Alive and Well. And we also have some vendors outside selling some jewelry, so go check them out, show them some love. But most of all, thank you to all of you guys for coming out and supporting what we're trying to do here. And y'all are the most important part of allowing people to continue to express themselves and the continual progression of this city. So let's continue to do that. Let's continue to show up for one another. And let's have a damn good time doing it. All right?
Thank you.
Signing out.